All right, let's talk about Jalen Hurts, and specifically, let's talk about how do we view him now? How much has this not just affected his legacy, but just how we view him as a player today in the NFL? Well, let's get into it. So first things first, we can look at a couple numbers before we get into some film. You see that his PFF grade on the year, this is the regular season only, he ranked 20th out of about 44 eligible players, although the passer rating was much better, 5th there. However, if you look at his regular season versus playoff difference, you actually see there's a pretty massive jump. His PFF grade jumps up over 10 points, and his passer rating still jumps up a little bit as well. So while he was a effective player in the regular season, but PFF says wasn't like a superstar or anything, then pretty much everyone's like, no, he actually was a superstar. In fact, he was the second highest graded quarterback in these playoffs. The only quarterback to grade higher is, interestingly enough, Lamar Jackson, but that's a conversation for another day. But okay, let's show some film, starting off with the play you see on your screen. This is the thing that I think Hurts has become known for, and rightfully so. He's really good at this stuff. You see it's a go route here, A.J. Brown, one-on-one, and in a big spot. 4th down and 5, Eagles just up 2 points at the end of the half. Hurts is going to take the snap. You see that A.J. Brown's going to get open, and again, I feel like A.J. Brown gets kind of all the credit for these types of plays, and I mean, rightfully so. He is so good at this type of stuff. But it is a combination of things, right? It's not just him. He can't throw the ball to himself. He needs someone to throw it to him, and Hurts is great at these throws as well. As you see, perfectly thrown football. Again, with these types of throws, what really, everyone thinks deep shot, oh, arm strength, right? Really, with these types of plays, it's accuracy and it's timing that matters so much, and they just have that down so well that, I mean, it seems like every time they try on one of those plays, they hit it. That's why even on 4th downs, they're going for long passes like this, because they hit it at such a high rate if A.J. Brown is left one-on-one. Of course, he had some in the Super Bowl as well, probably the most famous this one, which was actually Devonta Smith, who is in a one-on-one matchup. And again, Hurts takes the snap, runs a play action. Smith gets wide open on this play. You see, I mean, yeah, definitely very open. So, usually on deep shots, even if it's open, you're just hoping it can be hit. This one, you're almost like, this feels like it should be hit. But honestly, this is a perfect throw to, even if there was less separation, I still think Smith's able to adjust and make that grab. Even if Jalen Watson did a great job at finishing on that play at the end there. Yeah, I mean, definitely, again, without a doubt, I think that Hurts is really good at this stuff. But he did some other things really well this playoffs. It wasn't just that. Like, I think this play is honestly what he does when he's at his best, which is it's a 4th down and 4, and you see A.J. Brown. This time they're not going long. It's just a quick slant route. You see how it can get open. I think Hurts at his best is a game manager, and I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean he's great at reading the coverage, figuring out where to put the ball, and just getting the ball over there. Watch, that's what he does. He quickly knows the right read, gets it to A.J. Brown, and they convert on that play. And again, given how close this game went, the fact that the Eagles were able to convert, get another 3 points was very important. They won by 6, and the Rams had the ball inside the 15. Maybe, this game goes to overtime if they don't get these points. The whole game changes, of course. But it's an important play, and Hurts was able to make the important plays. The other thing I think he did really well in the playoffs was his rushing. You definitely saw him. I don't know if it was more. It felt like more. That might not actually be the case, but he definitely was a very effective rusher in the playoffs. And that, I think that matters. When you go up against good defenses, having someone who can just kind of take your offense to the next level really helps. That's what he was able to do. Watch as on this play, they fake it to Saquon, which essentially gives you an extra blocker, right? And honestly, there were still a couple guys who had a chance to tackle Hurts. They weren't able to get him down there. And then Hurts is off to the races. He's able to pick up a touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, he just was consistently a really good quarterback this postseason. And that's really impressive. So I think that's what we have to first do to talk about how good do we consider him as a player? How well was he in the playoffs? Did he just get carried? And listen, it's a great offense around him, great defense behind him. Definitely that helps, right? And this next play is probably the one you look at and say, this is the criticism of Hurts. This is the one thing that if you want to criticize, this is how you would do it. So in this playoff game against Tampa Bay, A.J. Brown was hurt. So that was a big deal. And obviously the Eagles defense hadn't played great all year, although here, the Eagles still have a chance. 2.5 minutes left in the third, only down 7 points. Hey, they're a play away from tying the game. Hurts takes a snap on a 3rd and 6, and this time there isn't an easy place to go with the football. Everything is covered, and I'm a Tampa Bay fan. I was in the stands for this game. That was happening a lot. I was watching the secondary, and they were covering consistently, because again, no A.J. Brown, and the Buccaneers defense was good this year. So because of this, what do you do if you're Jalen Hurts? Well, you got to minimize damage, and I think this is the one critique I would say that is fair, is when you put him in a bad situation, everyone's going to look worse, but I think there's maybe a bigger difference from Hurts in a good situation to a bad situation than your average quarterback. As you see here, he ends up taking a safety, which really just kind of iced things, as then the Buccaneers were able to get a 9-point lead. Technically, Hurts threw the ball, but it was grounding because he threw it too late, so it was a safety, and because of that, the Buccaneers scored a touchdown on the next drive, and then it was game over. So one of the things I try to do when I make these videos is to not just bring up points that support my argument. In fact, sometimes I don't even really have a strong argument. I just want to bring up the evidence and then kind of let you come to the decision that you want to come to. I always try to, though, if there is something like this where there's multiple arguments, give the strongest argument of both sides of those arguments as I can. I feel like a lot of people try to find the worst argument possible and then dunk on that argument, and it can be fun sometimes, I get it, but I'm more interested in finding the best argument and then, giving a counter to that. So what is the best argument for both sides? I think the best argument for why Hurts might not be like a superstar quarterback and just, got carried by his team is, well, this team is really good, right? And I would say, I don't think Hurts was great playoff game in and playoff game out. I think he did make mistakes in both the Packers game and the Rams game, albeit, maybe a bit of tough conditions, but nonetheless, I do think he made some mistakes in those games before legitimately playing great in the conference championship and Super Bowl. I think anyone who is being honest would agree he was fantastic in the past two games. I also think it is fair to say, I don't think he was dominant this season. In the regular season, I think he played okay. But I do think that there was a lot of Saquon Barkley, a lot of winning with defense, and him making the plays when he had to make them. But the flip side is that, well, he did make the plays when he had to make them for the most part. And especially in the playoffs, he made the plays when he had to make them. Even in the Rams game, which maybe he took too many sacks, but then he made some really impressive throws and was ultimately able to do enough to get them to victory. Yes, he had a good situation around him. I can't think of a single team that won a Super Bowl that didn't at least have a very good situation around him. Maybe the Chiefs last year had some issue at tackle, but they were able to, be good elsewhere enough that, it wasn't just Mahomes last year either, right? Always you're going to have some help to win a Super Bowl. If you want to say this is more help than usual, fine. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he did what you're trying to do. He was a starting quarterback who won a Super Bowl. I think about the undefeated Miami Dolphins team, and a lot of people will say, well, that probably wasn't the actual best team ever, right? Because I think the 2007 Patriots, have them play the undefeated Dolphins. I think a lot of deeper stats would say that the undefeated Dolphins weren't the best team ever. They were a very good team, a Super Bowl winning team, but are they guaranteed the best in NFL history? But at the end of the day, they did the thing. They went undefeated. They did what you're trying to do, and at the end of the day, for sports, that's what we have to measure. Certainly when we're talking about legacy, winning a Super Bowl is legacy. That's what is directly tied into that. And of course, it should massively help Hurts' legacy that he's been to 2 and won 1. Even if it's the situation around him helping, he also played well and was a Super Bowl MVP. So I think you have to give it to him. Now, when it comes to how do we rate him, again, I think you can make a strong argument for he should be rated very high. I still don't think you can put him above. Just logically speaking, I would rather have Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and who did I forget? Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. I forget which one I left out the first time, but those 4 I would still take over Hurts. I think you could make an argument for 5 with Hurts. I think it's maybe similar to Matthew Stafford in a way, where Stafford I always kind of viewed as a pretty good quarterback, but maybe not a superstar level guy. And then he was a superstar in the playoffs, won a Super Bowl, and I'm well, I kind of got to give him more credit for that. He did what you're supposed to do. Jalen Hurts also did what he was supposed to do. And for me personally, if I'm evaluating players and I'm in between him and someone else, I'll make the Jared Goff comparison. In my opinion, Jared Goff was better than Jalen Hurts in this regular season. And you look at the whole context of all of the games they played and combine them together and don't take big moments into account, I would probably say Jared Goff had a better year. But Jalen Hurts, in the big moments, did what he had to do and won a Super Bowl. I don't think it's unfair to lean his direction. And if I had to have one for next year, I think I would take Jalen Hurts, even if I think Goff had a better year, if that makes sense. But I don't know. That's what I think about all this. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.